let's talk about hats. It's cold out there. These are important. And although it's not strictly true, that thing that your parents used to say, which is that you lose most of your warmth out of your head, that's not really scientifically accurate. It is still important to keep your head covered in the winter. It is important to keep your head warm. It is also important to keep your somewhat untidy home haircut, COVID lockdown hair covered up, or at least maybe that's just me. But hats are important. They're also frankly important for style. I like how a hat looks on a lot of people. I want to talk about a couple of crucial topics related to hat, and that is hat size and fit, and also your yarn choice. Let's start with hat size and fit first. There are two kind of main hat styles, broadly speaking. There's a fitted style, like this one, sort of a watch cap, right? Also known as a beanie or a toque, right? A hat that's quite snug to your head. Or there's the family of kind of slouchy hats, like a tam or a beret, or things that are just looser up top here, right? Okay. These can be quite different in how they fit on the main part of your head, but when we're thinking about hat size, the thing we pay attention to is the band. And no matter the style of the hat, slouchy, fitted, right? It's the band that determines the size. And that band on your hat needs to be smaller than your head measurement. Put another way, we're wearing our hats with negative ease. They need to stretch to fit, right? That's what negative ease means. It's stretching to fit. The measurement of the hat smaller than you. So it stretches to fit so that it stays on. It stays on when the wind blows. It doesn't drop off when you tilt your head when you're getting out of the car, right? The hat stays on. It stretches to fit. Now, the body portion of the hat here may be also stretched to fit if you're doing something like a watch cap like this. And this is a hat that I like to wear in the worst of the winter with my parka hood pulled up. So I want this to be snug to my head. But you may also have slouchy hats, and I do. This is a firm favorite of mine, usually styled a little bit better, but hey. And this, looser here, but again, still stretching to fit in the band. And that's how you choose what size to make, no matter what the style. You look at the band circumference. You look at the band circumference and you choose the band circumference that's appropriate for your head measurement. And that will be a band circumference that's smaller than your head so that it stretches to fit. The pattern should give you a sense of how much smaller. Depending on the style of the hat, it might just be an inch or it might be a couple of inches smaller, but there will be definitely some negative ease in that band circumference. So to determine what size you need to make, you need to determine what size your own head is, right? You need to measure your head. So to measure your head for the band circumference, I've got my tape measure here and I'm holding it around my head where the band of my hat would fit. So it's around my forehead, on top of my ears, and around the back of my head. It's not straight, it's not level. Like it's on an angle because that's how I would be wearing my hat. That makes sense? And I'm measuring the circumference of my head around that. And the tape measure is snug. I'm not pulling it so tight I'm going to give myself a headache, but I'm pulling it snug. That's my head circumference. I'm then going to look at the pattern and I'm going to have a sense of, okay, given my head circumference, what size recommendation is the designer making? And the designer, hopefully, and certainly in the Knitty patterns, will tell you, based on a head circumference of this is the finished circumference of the hat you should be aiming for. So, for example, my head is about 21 inches around. And typically my hats are, depending on the fit of the hat, the band of the hat is somewhere 19 to 20 inches around. Just stretches to fit a little tiny bit again. And so it stays on when the wind blows. When you're looking therefore at a knitting pattern, at a hat pattern, check to see what does it say about choosing the size. What does it say? Does it give you an ease recommendation? Does it give you a size recommendation based on your head circumference? And then you will choose based on that. But expect the hat to stretch, to fit. You may also need to know your hat head depth for your hat depth. Okay. And what you're doing here when you're measuring the depth is you're measuring from the crown of your head, that's sort of center back. Okay. And you're going to measure down really to where you want the base of the hat to fit. There isn't a particular single answer here, because you may want something that is a little bit short. And there are hats out there that, in fact, just come to the top of the ear. You may want something that's a little bit longer down to the base of your ear. Or indeed, if you're making something with a folded cuff, like this is a long old hat because I want to be able to fold it so it covers my ears double. So your length is going to be determined by how you want to wear the hat, if that makes sense. Anyway, look at the pattern, look at the sizing information and choose based on that. And again, it's about the brim circumference. Depending on the style, the body may be snug, the body may be loose, but you're always going to set the size based on the brim circumference. And just a note about measuring yourself, by the way. When you're measuring yourself, like I've got this mop of sort of, wavy, but it's still short hair and I don't change it in any way. But if you've got a lot of hair, a lot of wavy hair, a lot of natural hair, or you change your hairstyle, take that into account when you're measuring. If, for example, you always wear your hair up in a ponytail, not quite there yet with my COVID hair, you'll want to put your hair up in a ponytail when you're measuring it. If you wear your hair loose and wavy and natural, then make sure you take that into account when you're measuring as well, because your hat should accommodate your hair. Make sense?